broadcast. If you need assistance at any time today, please send an email to soa@compartners.com. Today's presentation will last up to 90 minutes and includes time at the end for questions and answers. However, you may enter a question for us at any time during today's presentation. You may submit a question by typing it into the box in the lower left corner of the window. Then be sure to click on the Send button located next to the box. If you are listening to the audio only and do not have access to the chat box, you may submit your questions to soa@compartners.com. These instructions will be repeated later in the program. In addition, I would like to draw everyone's attention to the links box located to the left of the slide. To view or print the presentation slides, just click once on the presentation handout link, and a separate web browser window will open to display the information and allow you to print it. We would like to remind you that the SOA adheres to a strict antitrust policy. For more information on the SOA's antitrust policy, please visit the SOA website. One final disclaimer, presentations are intended for educational purposes only and do not replace independent professional judgment. Statements of fact and opinions expressed are those of the participants individually, and unless expressly stated to the contrary, are not the opinion or position of the Society of Actuaries, its co-sponsors, or its committees. The Society of Actuaries does not endorse or approve and assumes no responsibility for the content, accuracy, or completeness of the information presented. Attendees should note that the sessions are audio recorded and may be published in various media, including print, audio, and video formats without further notice. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce David Snell, who will introduce today's speakers. Please go ahead, Dave.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SOA's Candidate Connect webcast, How Do I Get a Job? The webcast will provide an overview of the recruiting process and how to increase your likelihood of getting hired. The webcast will include insights from Minyu Tsao, a recent fellow of the SOA who trains interns for RGA, a large reinsurance company, Olga Jacobs, an SOA outstanding volunteer and VP of Actuarial Strategy and Operations at United Healthcare, a large health insurance group, and Joseph Paisani, a veteran and early chairperson of the SOA Actuary of the Future section, who works in non-traditional actuarial roles. Before we begin, I will briefly introduce myself and my experience in the actuarial world. My name is Dave Snell, and I'll be serving as the moderator for today's session. I'm currently Technology Evangelist at RGA Reinsurance Company in Chesterfield, Missouri. I'm a former chairperson of the Actuary of the Future section and a current council member. In addition to being a frequent presenter at SOA meetings and author of dozens of articles for various SOA publications, I'm also a member of the SOA's Cultivate Opportunities team. So it brings me great pleasure to participate as moderator for this exciting webcast on how you can take advantage of opportunities to begin, enhance, and transform your actuarial career. The agenda for today is fairly simple. We will first start off with a quick overview of the SOA's resources for students and candidates. I'll then hand you over to our panel of experts. Each presenter will offer insight into differing parts of the recruiting process, providing you with helpful information to increase your likelihood of landing your dream job. After the presentations, our presenters will participate in a question and answer session. Please note that you can submit questions at any time during the webcast using the chat function in the lower left corner. Candidate Connect is an SOA initiative to engage actuarial candidates with the SOA community, providing them with information, inspiration, and networking opportunities while in pursuit of the ASA designation. Its main focus is to develop new and relevant candidate content, create engaging volunteer opportunities, and support aspiring actuaries using in-person events, webcasts, and online media. The easiest way to stay in touch with the SOA and get the new resources is to check out the Candidate Connect e-newsletter. In November, we will host a Candidate Connect event in Hartford, Connecticut. It's a full-day program designed for candidates. It's an opportunity for you to connect with SOA members, fellow candidates, local actuarial clubs, and employer representatives. We will also host a Candidate Connect event in conjunction with the SOA annual meeting in October in Las Vegas. You can find both events through the links on the left side of the screen. Candidate Connect recently launched a community online. It's designed for you to interact with fellow candidates, practicing actuaries, employers, and SOA staff. You can also access resources exclusive to community members. It's easy to join the community. Visit SOA Engage and enter your SOA username and password. Find and join the Candidate Connect community. Click on Communities and then All Communities for the full list. SOA Explorer Map is a tool where you can search SOA members, schools, and employers based on the location. Later this year, we will also add job search function to the map. Now, next, let me tell you a little bit about the Actuary of the Future section of the Society of Actuaries. Overall, AOF has a younger average age and experience level of actuaries. All of the SOA sections offer excellent networking opportunities with other actuaries, but AOF assumes no particular specialization area of practice. Even a newbie can join for $25 a calendar year and find kindred spirits quickly in AOF. The AOF is a community of people interested in exploring new ideas and technologies, whether original or adapted, to enhance the value that an actuary brings to his or her employers, communities, and society at large. AOF sponsors numerous presentations at SOA professional development meetings, at webcasts, podcasts, a LinkedIn forum, and on-site presentations at several universities and student gatherings across the United States and Canada. In concert with the Technology section and the Predictive Analytics and Futurism section, we co-sponsor the Actuarial Speculative Fiction Contest. We foster the sharing of new ideas, additional networking, exploring unconventional actuarial areas and learning opportunities, and accessibility for younger or newer actuaries. AOF is proud to be a sponsor and partner for this Candidate Connect webcast. Now I'll pass over to our first presenter, Minyu Tsao. Minyu, please start by telling us a little bit about yourself and then how a student can get that first job.
Thanks, David. My name is Minyu Tsao, and I work as an assistant actuary in RGA, Reinsurance Group of America, in St. Louis, Missouri. So like Dave mentioned, not too long ago, I graduated from college and started my first job. So I was definitely in your shoes searching for job opportunities and handing out resumes. Maybe we should even come for the time that I was looking for internships, because having internship experience is definitely a key to a full-time job these days. After I started working full-time, I got involved in the recruitment of interns. I enjoy talking with students and getting to know their journey on the actuarial path. So today, I'm hoping to bring both of the sides, both from employers and prospective candidates, onto the table to share some good general points, as well as some specific examples in landing your first job. So how do I get that very first job or internship? When I think about this, I think it's really a process. There are a few steps you need to take before reaching this goal. You really have to work through it. First, you need to build up your skills, your qualifications. This is really the foundation. You need it to build your resume. You also need it to get that interview opportunity. But don't forget, in the meantime, to market yourself. You yourself is a product you need to sell, and networking is a perfect channel to learn about companies that hire actuaries near you and make yourself known to the potential employer. Be in the loop of when and what employers are hiring. Now, finally, you get that interview opportunity. You want to make sure that you're prepared so that you can take this opportunity and land your first job. So let's dive into those. We need to first build up our skills. So the question here really is, what are the skill sets employers are looking for? And here are a few. First, it starts with the excellent academic achievement. Employers often look at GPA, the relevant courses taken, and if any scholarships or recognitions you've received. You may ask, well, why do employers care about my GPA? Don't they just want to know if I'm able to pass actuarial exams or not? Well, your schoolwork is just as important as your exams. It shows us the efforts, the diligence, and attitude that you can put in for a long-term goal. But on the other hand, we do understand that different schools have a different grading scale. So a GPA of 3.8 at one school may be equivalent to a GPA of 3.6 at other schools. So we do take those into consideration. Specifically for actuarial career, we all know it's important to pass exams. Different companies have different guidelines on the number of exams for qualification. Here, I think in addition to the number of exams, there are a few other angles you can consider. Were you able to pass your exam on the first attempt? If so, put that on your resume. In addition to that, people also care about when or in what time frame were you able to pass that exam. Was it during the first or second semester of your program? That's also very impressive and shows your commitment into the profession. On the other hand, sometimes we do see there's time lag on people's resumes in passing exams, so sometimes employers do ask those questions because we also wanted to see a consistent progression through exam passing, so just be prepared to answer those questions that they will arise. That being said, always keep in mind of what your plan will be for the next exam. Technical skills. Probably in the first few years of your career, you will be doing a lot of work analyzing through different spreadsheets and application softwares. So it's good to have some exposure in those applications while in college. Excel is definitely a universal tool for actuaries. I know a lot of the actuarial programs these days offer Excel and VBA classes, so those will be very helpful. But if it doesn't apply to you, try to find some courses that utilizes Excel, even if it's just a class project. Or I know there are numerous online YouTube videos out there that teaches you about Excel, so definitely look into those. Other good tools to look into include Access and SQL, and if you're looking for more data analytics and modeling type of experience, SAS, R, and Python are good ones to look at as well. Going beyond, as actuaries, we need to be able to communicate with both of the technical and non-technical audience. So that really requires good communication skills. And people often think that communication skills equal presentation skills. Well, I think that's just a part of it. The communication skills includes oral communication as well as written communication. Oral communication includes the formal presentation as well as informal conversations such as interpersonal skills. The written communication includes your report writing, but also includes the email communication that we do on a daily basis at work. And I think one of the best ways to develop your communication skills is through leadership experience, involvement in college and your community. We like to see the candidates that are involved in clubs, organizations, and their community, and maybe even holding some leadership positions. That tells us several messages. One is that we want to know who you are and what you care about. People love working with versatile individuals. But more importantly, it tells us that you go above and beyond, and you're not just satisfied with the schoolwork that you're doing. And you certainly have a good time management skills to be able to balance all of these aspects of your life. And employers wanted to hire those high-performing individuals. Now that you've worked hard in school and had success on the exams, I would say don't be satisfied with just staying on the paper. Make yourself known. Network. A lot of people think network interactions with potential employers only happens when you hand your resume over at the career fair. While that is true, I think there are a lot of leading opportunities for you to really lead into that moment. Here are a few. First, have you thought about your existing resources? What about your professors and your upperclassmen in the program? Guess what? Employers often ask for program directors' students' recommendations when soliciting resumes. When we have a pile of resumes to go through, good words from your professors can really help us to make the cuts. So what do? Well, be a good student in a class, but also let your professors know about your exam status, your summer plan, and your job search status is always a good idea. Your upperclassmen, most of them already have some work experience. You can talk to them to learn about their internship experience, what did they do, what skills that they felt was essential for the job, and when or where does that company recruit, and the key contact person in that company responsible for actuarial hiring. In addition to the existing resources, company presentations and networking events are definitely the way to go. I know companies usually go to multiple universities a year to give presentations about their business, their company, as well as their actuarial program. So definitely attend those events. And like Dave mentioned, SOA now holds Candidates Connect networking events as well, 3 to 4 times a year in various locations. Find one maybe that's close to you and attend that event. I've attended one of those through SOA. I can tell you it's a relatively small setting, and you will get a face-to-face time with several practicing actuaries. Definitely attend those. You will learn much more from someone that's in the field currently, and more importantly, a perfect chance for you to market yourself. Ask some meaningful questions and follow up afterwards. Valuable relationship can be built through it. I cannot tell you how many times the candidates we ended up hiring are the ones that was able to keep in touch with our recruiters. It's simple. When opportunities rise, the first person you think about is the one that you know most about. So you definitely want to be in the loop of that. And like Dave mentioned, the Actuarial Future SOA section as well as the SOA Explorer tool are 2 good resources to look into as well. I think the SOA Explorer tool is very cool. And, instead of showing you all of the landmarks as a Google map, it shows all of the credentialed actuaries in a specific area that you can define. So if you're in a situation that you can't think of anyone to seek for advice, maybe it's time to ask an actuary near you out for a cup of coffee. Okay, now that you've done all that hard work and you've sharpened your skills and got an interview, how do you make sure that you can ace with that interview? There are a few things you need to prepare for before the interview. First, peer review your resume again. Remember, your resume is also a piece of work from you. The quality of your resume also speaks for your writing skills and your attention to detail. Also, make sure you understand the key strengths that different companies are looking for and customize your resume to highlight those items. For example, a resume for an insurance company will probably look a little different from one for a consulting company. Moreover, do research of the company as well as the interview team. Make sure you have a high-level understanding of the company's main line of products and their main line of source of income. Also, you usually get a schedule of your interview with information on the interview team a few days before the interview. Or do some research on them. You can find their LinkedIn account and understand what their professional experience has been. It will help you first to put some pictures to the names and also help you during the interview to answer questions in a more applicable way. And also help to ask more insightful questions as well, which goes into the next point. Definitely prepare some talking points beforehand. Be familiar and ready to talk about the details of your prior experience that you have listed on your resume. And also prepare some answers to some common interview questions, such as, why do you want to become an actuary? What is your key strengths and weaknesses? And also prepare some interesting stories about yourself. So those stories that you can always utilize to fit into different behavioral questions that you will always come across during an interview. Now that you've done all that hard work, I would say be confident and bring the best of you to the interview. Remember, it's not always about how you answer those questions. It's about the presence that you bring into the interview. People want to see a motivated, energetic, and optimistic interviewee. Make sure you dress professionally. There's no such thing as overdressed for an interview. Also, make sure you ask questions at the end of the interview. that is the time for you to shine and turn the table around. Ask some insightful questions. We're always impressed with candidates who ask us about the researches that we're doing, the papers that we've written and published for our company, because that really shows us that you've done your homework and you care about this opportunity. On the other hand, I always tell candidates that the interview is bidirectional. You're interviewing for this potential workplace for yourself as well. So throughout the conversation, you'll probably have a good sense of the work environment, the office culture of this place. So if you don't see yourself as a good fit, maybe it's not the right place for you. Always follow up with a thank you card, whether it's an email or a handwritten one. As you can see, it is not easy. But if you're willing to put in the time and energy and going through this process and steps, you will achieve the golden star of your first job. Now I will pass it over to Olga, our next presenter.
Okay, our next presenter is Olga Jacobs. Olga, why don't you start by introducing yourself and your perspective on how to find an actuarial job?
Thank you, Dave, and hello, everyone. My name is Olga, and I'm a 30-year employee at United Healthcare. I currently serve in the role of Vice President of Actuarial Strategy and Operations based out of Hartford, Connecticut. I am a co-founder of our Actuarial Leadership Development Program at United Healthcare, as well as our summer Actuarial Internship Program, and continue to serve as part of the governance and operations teams in those programs. I am also, as Dave said earlier, a long-time SOA volunteer, have written many exam questions, graded many exams. I currently serve on the board of directors, and I'm also a faculty member at the fellowship admission course. Today, I'm really going to focus on how do you break through the wall of a large company if you're looking for an actuarial job. So at my large employer, breaking through that wall to find employment is not simple. And I think the experience that you may find at our company is similar with other large companies. There's 5 unique steps in that process. And any misstep, especially at those early stages, is going to leave you without the opportunity to interview for the role. The first stop is completing that online job application. And many folks get cut during this process because they don't take that part seriously. They go, hey, look, it's asking me to attach my resume. If I have to attach my resume, why should I fill out this line asking about how many exams I've passed, or asking for me to explain my SAS programming or my management experience? Bad move. If there's a blank there, you'll probably end up in the no pile because the review of the application is usually electronic. So during this step, don't make assumptions as to what you think is important or not important to put in the job application. If it's asking for something, please fill it out. Step 2 is the video interview. This is a one-way interview where you're going to sit at home, open up your laptop, jump online, and you'll be visually recorded answering a few questions. These questions, like the online application, are going to be the same for everyone for that particular job opening. And here, the misstep is not treating it in the same manner as a face-to-face interview. Dress appropriately. Remember, it's a video interview. We can see you. Prepare. Don't record where it's noisy. I don't want to hear the ocean. I don't want to hear dogs barking. I don't want to hear children laughing. Don't record it at the Starbucks. I don't want to see customers drinking their pumpkin lattes. Don't record it where I can see your messy desk. Hide that. So the video allows us to evaluate your communication skills, your articulation, your ability to speak in the language that's going to be spoken at that company's office, and again, your level of seriousness and preparedness. Step 3, you finally get to talk to a live person, the talent acquisition professional. This is our opportunity to see if you were as good as you are in your video or on your resume. And now it's finally time to get personal, to ask questions specific to you and your experience. Again, the misstep here is not to take this step seriously. The talent acquisition professional is the gatekeeper. He or she is the decision maker that's going to decide whether your name in your resume is going to hit my desk or not. Step 4, you finally get to meet and talk to the hiring manager. Up at this point, all you know is you're interviewing for an opening and a title at United Healthcare, but you don't know what department it's in. You don't know who you can be possibly working for. Now you finally do. This could be a phone call. This could be in person, depending on the location. It could be another screen because maybe we're still not quite sure and have some questions we want to ask, or a full-blown interview. Again, you're not going to know which it is, so you need to be prepared like it is an interview. And finally, step 5, the interview. Let's bring you in or set up some phone or video interviews with the team members, maybe again with the hiring manager. Whether it's on-site or via phone or video is a tough nut to crack sometimes. At my employer, it isn't always under the control of the hiring manager. Sometimes it's corporate hiring policies that are going to dictate what we do. I've been in situations where I've had to fill a director-level role through video interviewing, but a student role where the candidates are flown in. My advice here is if you get this invite, don't blow it with a lack of flexibility. You need to show extreme flexibility with your calendar. If I've narrowed it down to, say, 5 great candidates that I want to interview, and 4 of them can be interviewed in the next week, and your reply is, well, I'll be available in 2 to 3 weeks, I'm probably going to make the decision based on the first 4 candidates I see. So in summary, breaking through this wall and getting in involves tenacity and precision and seriousness in every single step, because one misstep and you're cut out of the process. Now, if you don't get the role and you got to the part where you actually were able to talk to a talent acquisition professional or later, reach out to them. See if you can get specific feedback on why. And if you are able to get it, do not spend time debating it with that talent acquisition professional. Accept it, thank them for it, reflect on it, and put a plan in action to work on that issue. I'd like to close out my section with what I call a top 10 list of helpful hints for breaking through that wall, and they aren't in any particular order. First, if you think that going into the Society of Actuaries directory and sending an email to every actuary employed at United Healthcare is going to help you break through that wall, it won't. Those hundreds of emails seem to somehow magically work their way back to me with people saying, hey, I don't know Olga Jacobs, but she sent me an email, and I already get hundreds of emails a day. So an additional 100 or so emails, all from the same candidate, being redirected to me aren't going to make me happy. So be thoughtful. Send a few. Have a targeted and thought-out plan. And a no response doesn't mean keep sending more emails. So I mentioned a better plan, a more thought-out plan. You've heard Dave talk about the SOA Candidate Connect events that are going to happen in Hartford and Las Vegas. Minu had that wonderful slide of ideas on how to network and who to talk to. those are the ways to go to get a personal connection, because that's what's going to work to find someone to talk to you who works at the company that you're interested in. So if you're attending one of these Candidate Connect events, or you go to an SOA meeting or an industry meeting or a local actuarial club meeting, you're going to have to put yourself out there. Sit down and actually turn and talk to the person you're sitting next to, introduce yourself, to get their business card, and that way you can write an email saying, "Hi, Olga, I sat next to you at the trend analysis session at the SOA meeting. It was a pleasure to talk to you. Would you have 15 minutes to expand upon blah, blah, blah?" The third piece of advice is, if you want to be employed as an actuary, make sure you use the terminology correctly. "Ooh, I grit my teeth," or even worse, when I meet someone and they tell me they want to be an actuarial, or they want to work in the actuary department. Actuary is the noun. Actuarial is the adjective. I mean, you talked about the exam progress and working on your resume. Don't make me hunt for your exam progress on your resume. And don't forget about the VEEs. That shows me that you're aware of the requirements and you've already looked into which courses that you completed in college you're going to get credit for. And on your resume, be specific as to when you're taking the exams. Saying fall 2016 or 2017 isn't specific. If you have that date that you've already signed up for an exam, put that there instead. I meet lots of individuals who say they have no experience. I ask them, "Have you ever had a job?" And the answer is, "Oh, yes, I have." Well, then you have experience. Whether it's washing dishes, working retail, all of that is experience that belongs on your resume. And you should be able to tie that experience, even if it's washing dishes, into how that makes you a great candidate. I once gave an actuarial offer to someone that I was so impressed with due to his door-to-door sales experience. And the hard truth is that not everyone can get an internship. And there's many people we hire who do not have actual internships. That should not be your roadblock. You should be able to demonstrate your work ethic, your commitment, your communication skills, your problem-solving skills from any and all the experiences that you've had. Then you talked about this one a little bit already. If you can't muster the curiosity and questions about the company, the department, the job that you're applying for, it's going to be really hard for you to get the job. Do your homework about the company. I won't talk about 30 years ago how difficult that was because we didn't have Google. You've got Google. So you've got Google and LinkedIn and the SOA directory and all these wonderful tools that you can use at your fingertips to get the information you need to impress us. Be a good candidate. By this I mean be responsive to the requests that you get from talent acquisition to fill out your application or when you can be available for a resume. Build a relationship with them, especially at a large company. If you're applying for the first role of whatever it may be, assistant actuarial analyst, and you don't get it, well, at a company like United Healthcare with 250,000 employees, there probably will be another opportunity coming up. And if you did not have a good relationship with this talent acquisition professional, you were rude, you were disrespectful, you're probably not going to be on their short list to call again to tell you there's a similar opening. Don't bombard with emails. If they said they'll get back to you in 2 weeks, please don't call or email 24 hours later. and also be forthcoming about your situation. You know, if you have deadlines with offers from other companies, but you're trying to, you know, maybe you really like a particular track, you got an offer from Life, but you really want health or vice versa, we can't act in time if we don't know that you have other offers that you need to respond to. If the knock on that actuarial department door isn't being answered, try the other departments. Try underwriting, try finance, try product development, try technology. If you can get in there, you will be working. Actuaries work, with all of those departments. You'll be seeing the actuaries in the hallway, in the cafeteria. Remember that brick about personal connections? Here's a great opportunity. Hi, Olga. My name is Susie. I work down the hall in underwriting. I'd love to learn more about being an actuary. Could we have coffee together next Tuesday? So if you've got to come in, during an indirect path, be the best underwriter, be the best financial person, be the best programmer that you can be. Shine in that role. And your reputation will carry you if you continue to have that desire to be an actuary, assuming you're going to be studying privately on the side with your exams. That'll eventually bring you to the actuarial department. And sometimes, I know finding a job is very challenging, and sometimes it's not you. You're doing everything right, but it's the person on the other end. It's me. Sometimes the challenge is the generational gap between the job seeker and the hiring manager. Sometimes it's just the gosh darn personal idiosyncrasies of that hiring manager. For example, I know that millennials want to change job every year. I'm sorry, I can't wrap my head around that. It is not something that is favorable to me when I look at a resume. I'm not going to find you during LinkedIn. Other managers will. And last but not least, remember to pay it forward. When you break through, and I know you will, don't forget about the challenges that you had to face, finding someone to make that personal connection, and how happy you felt when that person, after 10 requests, you found someone who said yes, who was willing to have that cup of coffee with you, or willing to spend 10 minutes on the phone and share their views on the actual profession or give you some good advice. So remember that feeling. Remember how grateful you were. And when you're an FSA and you get that request, I hope you answer yes. Thank you. Dave, back to you.
Thank you, Olga and Menu. Our last presenter is Joe Pisani. Joe, please tell us a bit of your background and how your focus differs from that of Menu and Olga.
Thank you, Dave. I'll be happy to, and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Joe Pisani. As Dave mentioned early on, I am a non-traditional actuary. I've been self-employed for 16 years now, working in very different types of environments. But I started very much as a traditional actuary. My first job was in a defined benefit pension department within a mid-sized mutual life insurance company back in 1980. Those are two things you don't hear very much about of anymore, defined benefits and mutual insurance companies. Things have changed quite a bit. But I worked in a very traditional types of actuarial jobs my first few years, but I was very fortunate that, I tend to be an inquisitive and motivated person, and two, I had some mentors I had some mentors that took some time to take me under their wing and give me some exposures. And as a result of that, I worked very hard to try and always sharpen my skills, broaden my focus, work in different areas, to the point where I was in the traditional industry for about 20 years. But towards the end of that, the last 7 years of that, I was working in things like marketing, customer service, had some role in a legal department, worked in just about every aspect of the company outside of actuarial. And from that, I've bridged that into a non-traditional career where I've done things like run a management training seminar business. I work individually with retirees doing personal risk management, personal actuarial work, And my current client, my main client now, is I'm actually working for a church, Catholic church in Philadelphia, that's a merged church, 5 churches merged into one, and I'm helping them consolidate financials, get rid of some excess properties, and manage the risk of all that. One thing I've come to learn over my career is that every organization, whether it's actuarial, insurance, non-insurance, every organization requires actuarial skills. They may not know it, they may not be aware of it, but everyone needs it. And so I've always focused in my career on trying to understand that and trying to see where there are needs and gaps that I can fill. I think where the focus of my discussion will differ from Minyu and Olga's is that I'm going to probably focus more on what happens after you get that first job and things you should keep in mind when the time comes that you want to change careers or change your focus or change jobs. I think there is a difference between getting the first job and getting every job thereafter. The first time out the door,
Joe, can I interrupt you just a second there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we just wanted to get your slide up.
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, I just realized that. I'm good. Thanks. The first time, the reality, I believe, is when you're going for your first job, coming out of school, there really probably is not a lot that distinguishes you from everybody you're competing with from the standpoint of what you can really accomplish. But once you get that first job, that's all different. From that point on, every job you ever get or don't get, or every opportunity you get or don't get, will be entirely tied to your ability to demonstrate that you have a track record, you can solve problems, and you can fill needs. So I'm also going to present a point of view, I think, from the standpoint of a non-traditional employer. It's very different. It's still the case where most non-traditional employers and industries do not know what actuaries are. So a lot of my comments will kind of have that background in mind as well. What I hope to touch on today are just real high level, talk about some of the core skills that I think everybody should possess, and leadership, something that I think all actuaries should operate with, ultimately tying everything to value and the value you deliver. Career success is not what it used to be. There used to be a point in time where just being an actuary guaranteed 40 years of employment and a nice, sweet retirement. It's not quite that way anymore. Maximizing the impact we can have is more challenging than ever. There are fewer opportunities, fewer organizations that hire actuaries than there used to be. Our areas of practice are constantly changing and evolving, and we have many more other people that claim to be expertise and experts in areas that were traditionally thought to be actuarial. Those are all things we have to confront, so that we live in an environment where there's increased competition for jobs, increased requirement for performance by people, mobility. Employers can stay local; they don't have to stay local. With technology, there's a wide range of ways that employers can solve problems today, and of course, security. There's the days of getting a job and working till you get the gold watch at 65 are long, long gone. Do they open new avenues, or are they barriers? I would suggest to you that thinking in a non-traditional way, it could be either way. Because the competition you're up against, there's somebody that's up against you. The high performer that you may be compared to, you can be a high performer. If you're willing to be mobile and be flexible, you might be able to get opportunities that someone else is not willing to take. And to the extent you can always be in a position where you are dictating, charting your own future, you're able to perform, you can develop your own security. All these things can be looked at two ways. They can be looked at as things that erode our value proposition, or they enhance it. They can be looked at as things that are limiting to our opportunities, or they can be looked at things that could expand our opportunities. Clearly, we're in an area of unprecedented and rapid change. Risk is prevalent. Very few things are certain. Nothing is guaranteed. People are asked to do more than they've ever been asked to do, often with fewer resources than they would like to have or need to have. So results are critical. There's a high emphasis on speed, accuracy, relevance, and impact. And at the end of the day, I believe, as actuaries, what sets us apart from other professionals is if we are good at what we do, and if we have learned enough about what we do, I believe we can have more impact on organizations. And impact to me is tied to value. At the end of the day, you will get a job and keep a job if you are very good at either increasing profits to an organization or reducing costs. It ultimately always comes down to that. The CEOs are measured by their ability to make profits and reduce costs. So to the extent you can help an employer do either or both of those things, that's where your value is tied to, and that's where you can have real impact. I think these are areas where actuaries often fall short, both individually as well as within our profession. I don't think we look at it this way. I think we have a built-in bias that we just assume that because we have a particular skill set, we're valuable. And I think we sometimes just assume that because we can do certain things that other people can't do, that should guarantee things for us. I think those are assumptions that cost us. From the standpoint of the profession, I think I would suggest if you just look at things, just look at the last 8 to 10 years. With the increase in the regulatory climate, and we have things like the Affordable Care Act, the collapse of defined benefit plans, the whole challenges around Social Security and Medicare. I mean, to me, those are all areas where if the actuarial profession was really proactive and really in front of the curve, we would hear our names attached to all those issues. We would be leaders and drivers in all those issues, and we really aren't. In times of rapid change, experience could be your worst enemy, and I would offer that to you too. And I think that's true at every point in the career path. We always feel good about the things we've accomplished, and we all accomplish very good things. I'm not trying to minimize the accomplishment, but I think it's very easy to think that we've accomplished maybe more than we really have, so that we think that maybe we're entitled or guaranteed to something because I've done this, or I have this GPA, or I've passed this many exams. It really doesn't mean anything. At the end of the day, none of that means anything unless you can demonstrate that experience you have can deliver value to an employer and fill that employer's needs with what they're looking to accomplish. So, a framework for success. I think there's a few things that underlie this. Certainly, at all points, you want to know where you're at. What is your current situation? Strengths, weaknesses. What do I know? What don't I know? Planning. Creating a plan to develop your skills to navigate your career. Getting in the mindset of moving forward. How do I move ideas forward? How do I move my career forward? Thinking in terms of thriving. How can I be successful? How can I accomplish things? Not just how do I keep a job? I guarantee you there are very few employers out there that are looking to hire somebody looking for a job. I don't know many. I don't want to hire people looking for a job. I'm looking for people that want to help me move my business forward. And I think a lot of employers have that same mindset. You may say that's semantics, that's just words. Maybe. But I also think it's a mindset, and I think it's very important to thinking in terms of it's not just about getting a job, it's about getting a career. And to that end, what I suggest is that everybody should take a real CEO mindset to their careers. You are responsible for your career. Nobody's going to hand you a job. Nobody is going to come giving you things. You have to earn it. You have to take control of your career and your development. You have to manage it. You have to try and drive the direction of what you want and what you want to attain. Ultimately, you own it, and you're accountable for the results. So that if you don't get the job you want because someone else got it, it's sometimes very easy to blame, to be in a blaming mentality for that. I should have. No, if you didn't get the job that you wanted to get, there's a very good chance that a reason for that is because you couldn't demonstrate that you were the best fit for the job, or because you didn't have a particular skill set that maybe you should have had. Take ownership. Recognize that you own your career from this point forward. You're accountable for the results. And I believe that with that kind of mindset and that kind of approach, it changes the way you think, it changes the way you prepare, and it changes the way you develop yourself. Even within the actuarial educational path, is it enough? A lot of people, I still think it's true. This is changing. I will say this is changing a bit, but I still think it's true that the mindset is, well, if I can just get through the exams, I'm set. If I can just get through the exams, I'll know what I need to know, and that's everything. And so we have this mentality that the exams are the end point. And you think of the educational path we take. We all start off as students. Some of us will attain ASA. At that point, some may stop, some may go on, may become an FSA, may become a CERA, may become both. That may or may not lead to a job in management. That may lead to a higher level leadership position. But ultimately, where does it all lead? It ultimately has to take you down a path where you are having impact in your organization. It's really not enough to just reach any one of these levels, and feel like I'm done. I've accomplished it. I can coast, because there's someone else out there that's competing with you, whether you know it or not. That if you're not sharp, if you're not managing your career, can deliver more impact than you. And another piece of this is this transition. I think, actuaries are known to the extent the marketplace knows about actuaries. They almost always think of actuaries as technical experts, calculators. They can do a lot of stuff. And I think to a large degree, especially early in the career development, it very much is a position of calculating things, doing things, following the lead, following directions. To have real impact and to have real, I think, open your possible career paths down the future, you've got to be able to transition from that to a position where you can demonstrate that you can manage things, you can manage processes, you can lead people, you can drive things to results. So as I was saying earlier, a CEO mindset is important. I think one of the first things I would recommend you all do after this webcast is, when you have some free time, to start clearing your heads a bit and think about developing my career business plan. And what does that mean? The reality is technical expertise is not unique to actuaries. And I come up very often with other people that are very sharp technical experts that are not actuaries that think they are at different levels or other. They think that because of their technical expertise, they can demonstrate actuarial proficiency in things that they probably can't. We all know that. But the outside world, the outside marketplace, especially the non-traditional areas, don't. They don't really understand the difference in technical expertise that an actuary has versus the technical expertise that a non-actuary has. So to help distinguish us from the rest of the pack, we need to develop a broad set of business savvy skills that not only increases our overall effectiveness, but will increase our ability to communicate and demonstrate why we're different, why our level of proficiency can deliver more value to an industry or to an employer than another can. And so that requires continuous self-improvement, developing interpersonal skills, the ability to think strategically and execute, and the ability to lead. A lot of actuaries, and we'll say in my background, in my traditional actuarial days, I was responsible for student programs and hiring at 4 different companies. I've hired actuaries at all kinds of levels. I've fired actuaries at all kinds of levels. And one, at the risk of generalizing, one thing that comes clear, very clear, is very often actuaries are very hesitant. They kind of back off of this concept of leadership. I just want to do my job. Just tell me what I need to do. I want to do it. I'm good at it. I don't want to lead. Well, a leadership mentality doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go out and run a department of 500 people or be a CEO or any of those things. But leadership is important because good leaders have qualities that good actuaries should also have. The ability to look forward, to be able to see what could happen, see what could happen in the future so that you can make good decisions today. The ability to look at scenarios, make assumptions, drive to outcomes, maximize processes, getting the best out of other people, building relationships. All of those things are what good leaders do. And people with a leadership mentality understand that those are all areas that should be developed and are worth developing. Someone depends directly on what you're doing and or pays you for the work you do. Customers, shareholders, coworkers, your family, your community, vendors. I mean, think about all the people that are touched in one way or another by what you do, and then extend that down that you depend directly on what you're doing. So where are you heading? Where will you end? And the day when they have the eulogy about your career, what will they say about it? What will be your legacy from the standpoint of the impact you had? All those things, to me, underscore an importance to develop a leadership mentality. It incorporates things like recognizing what got you from yesterday to today probably won't get you from today to tomorrow. And if you just think of your career to this point, whether you're a student, whether you've been in the profession for several years. If you think about your own evolution, you would probably realize and agree with that pretty much to get from milestone to milestone, something usually has to change or be increased or be developed. The model to get from good to great doesn't follow the same model as you took from being a beginner at something to being very good. At every level, the more to advance and increase, generally something has to change to make that happen. It's true at every level and role of life. So as you think about this, where will you be in 5 years? Where will you be in 35 years? Being able to think about that and articulate that and have a roadmap for that. How are you going to get there? Are you going to follow somebody to get to those endpoints, or are you going to lead to get to those endpoints? And recognizing that you have to lead yourself before you can lead others. I think this all boils down to whether you want to be or not. If you're in this profession and you want to be good at this profession and you're in this profession for several years, you're going to be a leader, whether you want to be or not. So make the best use of that opportunity. I mentioned earlier the importance for continuous self-development. So evaluating yourself, educating yourself, reinventing yourself. As individuals, we should do that. As a profession, we do that. Of course, you can only control one of those. You can only control yourself. No one of us can control the profession. But I think a real key here is to understand that education doesn't end with the exams. From a business and professional standpoint, it's only the beginning. It does establish a technical level of competency and exceptionalism that you have by completing the exams. But it's really just the first step to building, I believe, a successful actuarial career. It provides a technical base, but it doesn't provide much else beyond that businesses and employers are looking for. So knowing who your stakeholders are and their needs, recognizing that you're one of them, continuously developing in all areas, understanding your strengths, understanding your limitations, and developing and acquiring the skills that you need. What does all that mean? Well, there's a lot of stuff. I know I covered at a very high level. I know I covered a wide range of areas there, but trying to break it down, what I have on the screen in front of you now are basically 12 areas of 12 areas of development and knowledge that I think everybody should develop. I'll go through them real quickly. I think it goes without saying, operating at the highest level of integrity. It's not really a skill. It's not to be developed. To me, it's a given. But we can never lose sight of that. Operating with the highest level of integrity is important. I know we read a lot of stories countering that, but the reality of it is an employer that's entrusting a position to you expects, demands, and wants a high level of integrity in its work product. And that's integrity in all phases. Doing a good job, being honest about the job you're doing, being transparent about the work you're doing, disclosures, all that stuff. After that, I think the next most important skill is the ability to make good decisions. Everything you do throughout the day is a decision. I think the ability to make good decisions so that when someone that's relying on you, you tell them, look, I think we should do X, they believe that X was a well-formed decision. Environmental scanning is kind of forecasting. It's looking ahead, seeing what are all the possible things that could develop down the road, possible scenarios, trying to be able to look very wide at all the things that could happen and funneling that back to determine a course of action to follow. Influence and persuasion, the ability to influence other people, persuade people to see your point of view is very difficult, especially in this day and age where so much communication is electronic, emails, Snapchat, phone. So much of communication today is not face-to-face interpersonal. The ability to influence and persuade others becomes more and more difficult. But if you're able to do that, then you are more likely able to accomplish the things you want to accomplish.
Joe, can you advance the slides?
I'm sorry, what?
You advance the slide, I think.
No, I'm on the I'm on this one.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah, it's okay. Organizational politics, communication, strategy, the ability to develop, think like a strategic thinker, execute plans, solve problems, challenge assumptions, all of these things. Do you have to be perfect in all of these things? No. But I would assure you and guarantee you, if you could think of anybody in your life that you think is successful, it could be anybody, I'd be willing to bet that person is proficient, very proficient in a subset of these skills and very capable in all the rest. And I think to the extent any one of us can develop these skills of proficiency in as many of these as possible, and at least some level of competency and production in the rest, I think is a real short ticket to developing a career and being able to basically make sure you're always in a situation where you're getting good positions. Now I'll advance. Okay, where do we start? I love this quote from Ben Stein. The indispensable first step to getting the things you want out of life is this: decide what you want. That's sometimes the most difficult step. I think sometimes we think we know what we want. To me, in our profession, I would suggest what this means is, why do you want to be an actuary? Again, when I was hiring students, I can't tell you how many times I talked with young students who wanted an actuarial job but had no idea why they wanted to be an actuary. That's bad. I think if you really want to be an actuary, I think you really should take the time to think through what does that mean? Why do I want to be an actuary? What does that mean to me? I think to the extent you can define better what you want to be and what you want, that will better position you to determine what you need to learn, what you need to develop so that you can attain what you want. So real simply, it's a 3-step plan. Decide what you want, assess where you are now, what am I good at, what am I not so good at, what do I need to develop, and then develop your plan. What resources do I have available to me? How much should I expand my knowledge base? Implement the plan and monitor it and take control of it. As Olga and Minyu gave you outstanding advice for getting the first job, and most of those skills don't go away when you're going for later jobs. I think the trick is, what do you add to it? All of the tips and suggestions they gave you are valid. Learn them, memorize them if you have to, work on them. But as you go forward, and I think both of them mentioned it to some extent, you're going to sometimes not get the job you want, or you're sometimes going to have a disappointment. When that happens, don't feel sorry for yourself. Learn why. Try to understand. If I didn't get the job I wanted, try to understand why. Most hiring managers will tell you if you ask them, they'll tell you the reason that they maybe hired somebody else instead of you. Take that information, learn from it, understand how you can improve on it, and readjust your plan, and keep moving forward. I do believe there are opportunities out there. They're harder to find, they're harder to get, competition is tougher, but whether you're looking in a traditional, a non-traditional field, an emerging area, a shrinking market, I think there are opportunities out there. I would suggest that the extent to which you can define what you want and develop a plan to achieve it will ultimately increase your ability to get it. Ultimately, I do think it falls in your lap. So some people cause happiness wherever they go. Some people cause it whenever they go. I'm hoping I fall into the first category there. I thank you for your attention. Back to you, Eric.
Thank you very much. We will now have our question and answer segment of the webcast. As a reminder, to enter a question through the web conference system, simply type your question into the box in the lower left corner of the window and click on the send button. We will read the questions out loud and respond so that everyone may hear them. And if you're listening to the audio only and do not have access to the chat box, you may submit your questions to soa@compartners.com. David, please go ahead with our questions.
Okay, thank you, Eric. First question that we have is, I have a BS degree in business administration, computer science major, and 10 years of IT experience. What should I outline on my resume that would be beneficial to a company hiring actuaries? Olga, after your comment about the dishwashing experience being useful, I have to ask you that one.
All right, thank you. Well, if you're looking for an actuarial job, all that stuff that you have that you read off is great, but you know what's missing? The actuarial exam. So I don't know if in this particular case, if you've got those exams, that's the first hurdle, or one exam or two exams, at least one exam. That's what you're going to have to show, because that is proof of you are serious about the profession, and you can actually pass the exams.
Great, and there's a related question here. I have passed exam P and will be taking exam FM in December. Will my experience and 2 past exams be enough to be hired into an actuarial role? If not, what other jobs should I be applying for to get experience that would be beneficial?
Is that one still for me, Dave?
Yeah, let me follow up with you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so right. So if you've got the 2 exams, the IT experience, I forget what the other parts of it were there. It's enough. Yes. And then the second part of the question was, well, if I can't get that actuarial job, what else should I be looking for? I go back to one of those bricks I had about try underwriting, try finance, try those other areas in an insurance company or non-traditional companies, to Joe's point, that deal with wanting to minimize risk, measure risk, control risk, right? That's what your actuarial education is going to teach you. So I would suggest those paths.
Thank you. Minyu, here's a question. I'm an actuarial student who has succeeded on the actuarial probability exam, and my master's degree in finance is due in March from another country. I wonder if I have a chance to get an internship or an entry-level job as an actuary in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, I know for a lot of the internships, qualification, different companies, usually there's no exams required, so having passed an exam definitely already shows your drive and ability to succeed in the actuarial profession, and that's usually what companies are looking for an internship candidate, to really see if you have the potential in here that they would want to invest some time to train you to get into the job field.
And close related to that is my training in finance and assets.
Definitely. Kind of related to what Olga has mentioned. Anything that related to finance or any knowledge you have on the business side, that all applies to kind of the actuarial work that we do. I know finance for valuation actuaries, they often need to have some sort of knowledge in finance, so those definitely come to play.
Thank you. Okay, here's one that could go to any of you. I've been applying for a few weeks now, and so far I've not received any positive response. If possible, I'd like to know why. Any volunteers here?
Well, I mean, I could take a crack at it. I mean, one aspect is, and I think Olga alluded to this. A lot of people are applying, whether it be through mail, email, etc., and sometimes it just takes a long time for people to respond. It could be that you're not sending it to the right person. If you're not sending it to the right person in this day and age, I think very often it will not get forwarded to the right person. I would try to look at other points of entry to see if, just make sure you are sending it to the right person.
Right, and I would add on, so if you're applying, we don't know what method they're applying. I'm going to assume it's an online application. Think back. Did you answer everything? Did you leave anything blank? Sorry. Did the requirements say 2 actual exams, but you have 0 or 1? I mean, sometimes it could be as something as black and white as in that particular application you actually aren't meeting the criteria of what they're looking for. If you've got a name of someone, if it's and they can give you feedback, send one email asking for feedback, and you never know. Maybe someone will reply.
Thank you, Olga. Here's what I think Minyu might be best on here. What kind of programming skills or programming language besides VBA would the interviews in actuarial companies most like?
Yeah, really, I think, like I mentioned, Excel, VBA is definitely the universal tool. And beside that, I think that really varies company by company. But a lot of times, as long as we see that you have some type of programming experience, whether it's Java, C++, SQL, Access, or the modeling type of programming skills, like I mentioned, R, SAS, or Python, we usually will ask you about, and we want to know kind of what level of skill sets you have in those programming languages. And we all understand usually once you know one, you know the programming languages are fairly universal in the way they set up, so it's not too hard for you to transfer the knowledge in one specific programming language to another. So I wouldn't necessarily just say those are the typical ones, but as long as you know something that we know you have the ability to do that part, we will have confidence for you to apply that into other programming languages that different companies may specifically focus on.
Yeah, and data visualization packages are hot right now. Tableau or Platfora or items similar to that. Please put that on your resume.
Good point.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Olga.
Okay, for both Joe and Olga, you touched on this question. On 2 recent interviews that I had, I was told that I interviewed well, but they opted for somebody with more experience than me. What can I do to get that first job?
I know. I love that. I mean, sometimes, I think it is sometimes difficult to tell someone no. And I think the most common excuse people get for not getting a job is, we found somebody with more experience. I recommend to people that when you are told that, again, I think most interviewers will be honest with you, I would probe back a bit and say, well, what type of experience did I fall short on? What could I have told you that would have convinced you to look at me instead of that other person? I would try and politely probe a little bit. Because like I said, sometimes I think that's just a toss-away line. That's where I think what the real message sometimes behind it is, well, we just like this other person better for whatever reason. The other thing that I would tie back to is, especially on that first job, I think, very often the first jobs from the employer standpoint are very technical in nature, very number crunching in nature. I think they want to see somebody that is willing to come in, be a good independent worker, can solve problems, can get things done. I think one of the keys to getting that first job is to really demonstrate to the person that you have a strong enough knowledge about their business that you will do well at it, but that you're also a strong enough go-getter that you will produce a lot of good work for them.
Thank you. And Olga, I'm sure you'd enjoy this one. I've heard it's better to contact the chief actuary through the SOA directory rather than going through the HR department for getting a job. Is there any truth to this?
No. I would say for my large company, the chief actuary is just going to send that email to me, and I'm going to, if it's the only one I've got on that from that particular person, then I will send it off to our human capital or talent acquisition area, and they will reach out to you, hopefully, and say, please apply online. But the chief actuaries usually are not going to want to be bothered by that.
Okay. Minyu, I've heard many times that networking is as important as anything else when it comes to getting a job. But my attempts to reach out to actuaries who are acquaintances, family, friends, and fellow alumni have been largely ignored. I know they're busy, but it seems rude to send consecutive unresponded emails and voicemails. Is that wrong? What are your tips for approaching actuaries in order to network, learn more about the profession, and job hunt and make meaningful connections?
Yeah, and I would say one of the networking events that we mentioned throughout the presentation would be a good one for you to look into. Maybe attend some large networking events to get a few business cards afterwards, so that you could follow up after that to maybe get another 15 or 30 minutes talk with the person. Then I think you can really build up some meaningful relationship afterwards. And I see candidates that have done that with me, and also, after that, whenever they have status about their exam passing, their summer opportunities, or their job opportunities coming up, they will always kind of write an email or give you a heads up. So that's kind of how I've been approached in the past.
Thank you. And this is one I'd like opinions from all three of you on. In general, which is a better time focus for aspiring career changers? 1, study for an additional exam, Or 2, learn an additional technical competency for interviews, for example, R or Python or VBA. Any takers?
What was the first part? What's the appropriate time frame?
Well, what's the better time focus?
Oh, focus, okay.
Yeah, should you spend your time studying for an additional exam or pick up some technical competencies?
I'm going for the exam. Yeah, I mean, without understanding the full context there, I think I would agree. Although I would add, it's never a bad idea to learn a new skill. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that could be just as important. But if it's someone that's on the exam path, I would agree with that. Yeah, and it's hard to know. Like if you have 0, you really need that one exam to get that entry-level actuarial job. If you already have 3, well, then you're not being bypassed because of a lack of exams for that actual entry-level job. You know, so I wouldn't. If you already have 3 or 5 or 7 or some number other than 1 or 2. Then concentrating on more. The exams now do not seem to be the blocker as to some specific skill that you are missing as to why you're not getting the interview opportunities or why you're not getting hired. Joe had talked about a lot this in his slides. Communication skills, really are extremely important and sometimes the differentiator. Going back to the other question that you had asked, Dave, about I'm being told I don't have experience or something. Maybe you could not articulate very well during the conversation or during the interviews, or couldn't answer the behavioral interviewing questions that were asked, but the other candidate could.
Olga, thank you. And that leads directly into a related question. Is it detrimental for candidates to pass too many exams during university, making them difficult to hire?
I'll jump in on this one, even though I just spoke, because this question comes up a lot. I do a lot of on-campus recruiting, and the answer is really no. That what happens is a disconnect between the expectations of that student who has all those exams versus the company. And I'll just give the example of if you're graduating from college with your FSA, we are not going to pay you an FSA salary. You have 0 days of experience of being an actuary. You wouldn't even be able to have you wouldn't be able to pass the continuing education requirements to actually even have an actual opinion. So again, the disconnect happens. I've graduated with an FSA. Why aren't you hiring me, Olga, as a director of your department because I'm an FSA? So I think it's great if you can pass as many exams as you possibly can. You're going to come out ahead in the work-life balance, while everyone else has to be working, 40 hours a week and 10 hours a night studying for exams. You've got that behind you, but you're still an entry-level candidate.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely.
Yeah, I would like to add something to that as well. I think there's also a kind of a mindset of exams are really just there to get you foot in the door. And I think once you pass 1 or 2 exams, people are also focusing on your personalities, your work experience as well. So I met a lot of candidates probably passed already 4 or 5 exams, but with no experience or other leadership position skills on their resume. So sometimes that's kind of where people make different decisions. If I see 2 candidates, one with 4 exams but with no internships and no activities that she or he are involved, compared to one maybe just having 1 exam but has an internship and has very good personalities, that's kind of where recruiters may make the choice of the second candidate.
Thank you. Olga, your video interview struck a chord with one of the listeners who wrote in, regarding video interview attire, would a suit or tie be recommended for men, or would a nice dress shirt be preferable?
Ooh, you know what? Minyu said something earlier which I thought was great. You can never be overdressed for an interview. So if you have, I'd be happy with that suit, tie, and jackets. Hold on a second. Jacket, shirt, and tie. I'd be happy with a shirt and tie, a jacket and a shirt. Any of those combinations are fine. I don't want to see a hoodie. No hoodies out there for your video interview, okay? No T-shirts. Nothing ripped, dirty, disheveled. Get your hair combed. I'm answering for a male perspective, but you set it up as a male perspective, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, take pride in your appearance. You can never be overdressed for your interview.
That's an excellent point, and I'd like to follow up personally on that. A friend recently came back from an interview, and before he went to the interview, he asked the company specifically, how should I dress? And the person on the other end of the line says, well, we're a very informal company here. So he went there, he dressed neatly but informally, and then afterwards, part of the feedback he got was, didn't you think this was important enough to wear a suit and a tie?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another one. My background is that I'm enrolled in a chemical engineering co-op program because I wanted a backup just in case I couldn't pass my actuarial test. And I'm looking to get an actuarial co-op job for my first work term, which is in the summer of next year. I've passed exam P, and I'm currently studying for exam FM. Will employers care about what major I did? Any thoughts from anyone there?
Wow.
No, I don't. I guess I'll start. To be honest with you, you could be a music major, a theology major. Those are acceptable majors to me if you also have exams passed. Because if I just look at a theology major who has no exams, I have no way of knowing your math aptitude. If you're a chemical engineering major, I know that you have math aptitude, but that would be my answer.
Great.
Yeah, and I would add to that. I agree with that, and I would add, listening to your description, Dave, I mean, my first thought would be, wow, why is a chemical engineer want to be an actuary? I wouldn't care as much about the major, because to Olga's point, there's clearly an accomplishment there. But I really would be concerned with why the heck you want to be an actuary. And I would suggest if that's the path you want to follow, you really galvanize a good answer to that question and really have that articulated.
Yeah, agreed. I think it really comes down to how you, tell your story to the recruiters. They really want to see if you have the commitment for this profession.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. Should you put exams which you plan to take in the future on your resume, even if the registration period for that exam has not opened and you're not officially registered to sit for the exam?
Yes, and I think that probably is a comment based on what I had said. I want to be able to distinguish between those who are seriously sitting for exams and have looked at the schedule and are actually know that exam P or FM is offered in this month, and that month, versus someone who's kind of just hasn't done their homework and just saying, oh, I'm going to take exam P sometime in the spring of 2017.
Good.
So if you can narrow it down to a month for me as opposed to just something very general, I'll take it.
Okay, and this is another thing that you touched upon from a different perspective here, but the question is, regarding potential salaries, what do the years of experience represent in common actuarial pay tables? For example, would a career changer only expect to receive compensation in the 0 to 1 year experience range, or should they reasonably expect consideration for other non-actuarial specific, albeit analytical, professional roles?
Well, I'll take a crack at that. Neither. If we're talking about someone who's making a career change, what I was alluding to in the early part of my discussion is you'll be paid based on your ability to produce results. You should expect to be paid commensurate with your ability to deliver what that employer's looking for you to do. That may or may not be tied to a particular exam level. I don't know, but it will definitely be tied to your ability to do the job. I've seen many situations where students at exam levels are paid more than a grade would suggest and paid less than a grade would suggest. The only difference being their ability to deliver and produce results. So I think if I would suggest you reframe the question a little bit to that end, and not get too locked up on it. At this certain level, I should get this certain level of compensation.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess just to pile on to that, I mean, we don't know all the specifics of the situation, but if you're like a director in, the role that you have today, which is non-actuarial, and you have 20 years experience, and now you go, I want to, pursue this new dream of being an actuary, you are probably not going to get a salary commensurate with 20 years in a director level in your, chemical engineering field or your teaching field. So you've just got to align the expectations, kind of to paraphrase Joe, you're going to be paid for what you bring to this job and what, and to his word, what you can deliver.
Okay, thank you. I've got probably time for one more quick question, and I think the answer to this will be fairly quick. Given technological developments, how common is the ability to work remotely from day one in an entry-level actuarial role?
Wow.
0 for me.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'd want that, whoever asked the question. You would really be missing a lot of relationship building by wanting to start out your entry-level career sitting all by yourself somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Olga. And Dave, as you read that question, I'm thinking maybe this is somebody who is geographically located in an area that's not near an actuarial hiring firm, and they're thinking, can I bridge the gap? But I agree with Olga. I think no. I think if this is the career you want, if this is important to you, then I think it's very important that you find a way to get yourself into that organization.
Yeah.
And after a few years, remote working in a lot of companies will be, something that people won't even blink an eye at, but not entry level day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, with that, we're going to conclude today's webcast. I'd like to thank our panel, Minyu, Olga, and Joe, for their time and insights. I'd also like to thank all of you who attended the webcast today. If your question has not been addressed due to the limited time, and there were lots of extra questions, please feel free to post them in the Candidate Connect community on SOA Engage. Lastly, please make sure to fill out the feedback survey so we can design our future initiatives based on your preferences. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. And if you take a look at the links box on the left-hand side of the screen, you will see the webcast evaluation. Please take a moment now to complete the evaluation and give us your feedback on this program. Click on Submit when you have completed the evaluation to send us your responses. Your questions, your comments, and suggestions are very important to us, and they help us to provide you with this kind of quality programming. To register for any upcoming webcasts or meetings or to purchase recordings of previous webcasts, please visit www.soa.org today. Thank you for your participation in today's webcast. We hope to see you here again soon. Today's program is copyright 2016 by the Society of Actuaries with all rights reserved. This concludes today's program. Thank you. You may now disconnect.